is us, shall be paid the compensation and the balance shall be credited to the buyer. So this is a follow-up video to my last video that I just made, and there's a couple other follow-up questions from someone in a recent email that I got. They asked, firstly, are there any administrative, transaction, retainer, cancellation, or termination fees? And the answer is no. There are no extra fees beyond the 1%. The total amount that we charge our buyers in a transaction is 1%. So it's 1%, that's it. There's no 1% plus. There's no 1% and then a bunch of other random fees. There are other fees that are charged to the buyer in the transaction, but they don't come from us. Those fees will come from title and escrow charges, and they could be some prorated property taxes, maybe some HOA fees or something like that. So let's move on to the next question here. The length of your buyer agreement, how it can be canceled. Typically, we like to do buyer agreements for about 3 months, and then we can review them at the end of the 3 months and make sure that everyone is happy. And how it could be canceled, you can cancel at any time prior to the end of that document going on or prior to going under contract. Once we go under contract, then we cannot cancel the agreement since we're under contract. There's another question on here. It says the duration and scope of any protection period. Protection period would be something, it's most commonly used for listings, but in this situation it would be, let's say I go and show a property to somebody and in fact they decide to wait out the end of their contract and then go buy the house without me. And I don't have one because nobody ever does that to me. So that's not really a problem. Please also send a sample buyer representation agreement, which I have a copy of here. I went over this in another video, but you can see this is one that I had used with a different client, and I am charging always 1% for buyer representation. And then the highlighted terms here discuss what happens if the seller pays more or less than the amount that's on this contract. I'll read it again in case you missed the last video, and it says right here, if seller or seller's broker offer of compensation is greater than the broker compensation, then the broker, that is us, shall be paid the compensation and the balance shall be credited to the buyer. So, and this is in the event that the seller agrees to pay a commission. We say compensation here, but basically a commission which is higher than the amount that we are charging, which is normal for us. So let's say that the seller agrees to paying us a commission of 2.5%, and we have a buyer broker agreement of 1%. Therefore, there would be a 1.5% credit that would go straight back to the buyer. Now, this was another question in the email from this potential client that I got, and he says, well, what happens if the seller's offer of compensation or the amount that we agree to is less than the broker compensation? Well, the answer is the same. The buyer owes us 1%. So if the seller is not willing to pay it, it will be owed by the buyer. So we're not changing this agreement. And if for some strange and bizarre circumstance in which the seller is not willing to offer compensation at all, then it will be paid to us by the buyer and owed at closing, just the same as it typically is for sellers, because sellers are usually the ones paying most commissions. So it's the exact same as that, except for it would be owed by the buyer. So no matter what happens, we collect the same 1% of the contract price, whether the seller is willing to pay it or not. But in most situations, the sellers are pretty happy to pay it because the 1% commission that we are charging is significantly less than the amount that most agents are charging. So if you have any other questions, visit www.justoneaz.com to find out how we can save you money every month for the next 30 years.